Get our Zoom hooked up so we become live for all the people who watch us.
We got a lot of fans.
A lot of fans. I think maybe two.
Maybe.
My daughter watches sometimes
Huh?
till bedtime.
Oh, okay, well, she's really
Oh.
what I would call dedicated.
Early democracy.
Yes.
Is that what you meant by like the play learning?
Yeah.
No, so they did that today and went through an entire container of salt, just
Oh.
playing on a mirror with the
Yeah.
salt and
Good.
sensory things.
How's the motorcycle going?
Got it all apart.
What do you mean you get it all apart? I thought you were ready to roll.
No, I was firing on one cylinder, so
Oh,
That's
okay.
a problem.
Okay,
we're
well,
getting there.
you keep telling me that. Have we launched?
We've launched.
Okay. Okay, I think we're here, we're at 6:30 on our clock here, so I guess we can begin, open the meeting. Public comment we have for 15 minutes, but this public has something on the agenda, so we'll just move along to approval of the meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes available. Any comment, question?
Feel good.
We have,
I would move to approve the meeting minutes
and I would second that.
from,
Further discussion, additions, modifications? Hearing none, those in favor?
aye,
Aye, okay, moving along. I would just like to move the agenda item for Joe's Journey under 5C, special events to vote. And that would be on, gee, that's quickly coming up, September 10th. So, welcome. Do you have a presentation or anything you'd like to chat with us about? Or this is just a 5K plus a cornhole event?
Yeah,
Okay, where in Barre are you going to do it?
it's going to be at Felton Field.
Okay.
We had it there two previous years before COVID.
Yeah, okay. Do you have paperwork?
It should be some
Okay.
in the packet.
Let me just see.
It's just
But so-
probably a little bit further down in the
Yeah,
packet.
okay. Q drugs I've got.
There's going to be a quick.
Christmas and Barre, I got that. Joe's Journey here. So they've met all the requirements for special events, it looks like.
Yep.
Everybody's signed
I
off.
think the most important departments in this instance would be the police department and the fire department, so.
Okay. And Felton Field is free that day, so you're good to go? John, any?
I would move to approve the special event of Joe's Journey for Recovery 5K and Cornhole on 9/10.
I would second that motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like, and it's approved, and wish you well on that. Is this something to garner money? Is there a fee for this, so that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Journey for Recovery, thank you for doing that. It's important.
Feels good to be back in person. The last couple of years definitely made it, we were gaining much steam in
Yeah.
18 and 19, and
Mhm.
COVID came about.
Yeah.
And
One thing I might recommend to you is you could have a conversation with the Barre Savings Charitable Foundation. They have a grant program, and they are often very supportive of events like this. And if you'd like any further information, go online to the Barre Savings Charitable Foundation. There's a grant application there. It's very, very easy to fill out. And, you know, I think they meet quarterly, and so I think there's another meeting coming up in September. And it might just give you a little bit of cash to, you know, get started and so forth again. So think about that now. Now, don't say, what does she know? Okay? Because I really know about that. Okay?
I'll
check it out.
Okay.
Very interested. Thank you so much for mentioning.
You're very welcome. Good luck.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you, guys.
Okay, I think we might as well do Christmas in Barre when we're down there. Okay, Christmas in Barre, you sort of know a little bit about that, I know. Mrs. Hood. I know you've done this before, you have all of the things all checked off and so on and so forth. I would just have to say to you and to all the group, thank you so much for doing it, because it's not an easy thing to pull off, between all the decorations and getting the lighting and getting people doing what they're supposed to do and getting the parade rolling and hoping for good weather to even decorate is, so great job last year, and thanks so much. Thank the entire committee for their work on this. Could I have a motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve Christmas in Barre for December 3rd, 2022.
I would second that motion, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, we're good to go there. We may as well do all the requests for town property while we're down there. And B, we have Q Drug Ice Cream Social for September 29, Circle of Song 29 through December 15th, that's using the building. The ice cream social thing for Q Drugs, I'm assuming that they've done this before, so I know that they know the paperwork. Did they give you paperwork somewhere in here?
Yeah, it's
just
behind
the
that
single-
contract right there.
Okay, they're,
Yep.
It's a smaller.
and Circle of Song,
Yeah,
right, because they're
it's
just,
one page.
you're just one-day deal.
Yeah, they're not using.
And Circle of Song is a little more, but it's just in the town hall.
Several days, right?
Several days, okay.
Rehearsals and then the concert.
Okay. And further questions on that, John? I know the Q Drug has done this before, and it
Yep, that's
does.
a small,
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. I would move to approve Q Drug Ice Cream Social.
I would second
on-
the motion.
I'm just looking for the September 29th.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And moving to Circle of Song, this is a yearly thing. They've been doing this for, gosh, quite a few years now. Looks like they have done the paperwork, and again, they have a track record with us, and Tony Mobilia, I'm sure, would say there are times when they wish that he had less things to do in the town hall. Like today, he told me he was on his way over there to clean up after somebody, but he said he doesn't like to put his name on it unless he does it himself, cleaning it up. So, Circle of Song, have a motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve Circle of Song to use the town hall Tuesdays between September 29th and December 15th, and on December 17th.
Okay, I would second that motion.
Okay.
Um,
I assume we've checked for any conflicts with all those dates?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, look like we've got those done. Use of town property, special events, boards and committees, no, we'll do that later. Personnel we'll do later. I don't know if, is Greg coming as far as we know? Because
I haven't heard from him, but I know it's a Tuesday.
oh, it's a Tuesday, he may not be able to.
Golf day. Not
Well,
great golf weather, but some people still golf in the rain.
well, I don't know if, well, maybe they're still golfing, I don't know. But anyway, so I guess we could look at, on our minutes. Why don't you go ahead with your report, although, you know, she was going to be here, because we might go over things.
Absolutely. We can revisit if
Yeah, if
he has any
necessary.
questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'll start off with the Rutland Regional Dispatch meeting that I had a couple of weeks ago. All of the communities involved in the IMA with Rutland, which is Rutland, Barre, Hubbardston, Warren. I think I'm missing a community, but it's just kind of this general area. We all met in August to discuss the shared IMA that we have. There have been virtually no changes to the IMA since I was told the mid-'80s. So as you can imagine, a roughly three-page plan agreement could use some updates now that we're in 2022 and the technology is very
Change.
different.
Mhm.
So some of the concerns that we had, that mainly the town administrators had, was that we didn't feel like we had cohesive communication with the dispatch, specifically when it came to budgeting time. We kind of just receive a budget in about March that says, you know, here's what you owe, this is what Rutland has agreed on as the budget. And since it is like it's about $170,000 for us a year, and that fluctuates roughly about 5% a year. So we just felt that we wanted to have more of an input in seeing how the budget process goes, like having general input on what goes into the budget. So that was one of the main priorities. Another issue that we are coming up against is the fact that there's no capital plan, and the capital purchases for the dispatch are really expensive. So, for example, both the police chief and the fire chief have approached me saying that the radios are failing, and they're very old. You can't get replacement parts for them. You can't fix them anymore. And those radios are about $8,000 a piece.
Wow.
You know, they're not cheap at all. And if we need one for
Just a motorcycle.
if we need one for every member of the police department and the fire department. I hear that beeping.
That's
It's a little
somebody's-
distracting, but
Somebody's car alarm.
yeah. So, that multiplies. It's going to be about, not me,
For
No.
us to send over there.
As long as
Yeah.
it's not the Volvo.
either one of them.
Somebody probably hit their pocket.
So it's about $145,000 for us to just replace our radios, and it would have been really helpful if we had a plan to maybe replace 5 of them a year instead of all like 40 of them at once.
Oh, so are we talking about next year replacement?
We're either talking about next year replacement or using ARPA funds. I'm considering looking at how the eggs are falling with what we have left. I think we should probably prioritize at least a portion of these radios being purchased with ARPA funds, and then maybe matching that at a next town meeting with the other half. My other issue with bringing this up is that if we need all of them replaced at once,
They're going to be
then-
all replaced at once again. next time.
exactly, and so that's why we talked about having a capital plan where every year we replace a couple, so it's not as big of an expense at once. Our next meeting is this week on Thursday. The director of the dispatch has incorporated all of the changes. And so the next step after we review those changes is we have to send the recommendation to the select boards for review and approval, since it's a part of that agreement. On the human resources front, we have had issues recruiting for some job openings, so we created a LinkedIn page for the town to hopefully promote our job openings there, since the traditional methods of job posting have not been working in our favor. So I haven't heard any feedback that it's been working. Like the couple of applications that I've got, nobody mentioned that they received it from LinkedIn, but nevertheless, we are still trying to spread our reach and go that avenue. For electricity rates, I am working with Mantis Innovation to plan for the substantial increase that we are expecting in electricity rates. Some estimates say that we could be looking at double the electricity rates by this time next year, and our contract is up in 2023. So if we work, if I work with different companies now to see what we can.
So we're working with different companies in an effort to do a bid?
We're looking at this point just at what the potential could be if we lock in an
okay.
early rate,
Okay.
to see if that might work in our favor. One of the issues that we have is our public safety building was never included in the last contract that we did. So, and that's one of our biggest users for electricity. So their, bill is high to begin with, and then the fact that it hasn't been a locked-in rate has been another issue. And then also this week, I do have a meeting with Valley Solar to discuss what a potential solar project might look like at the public safety building to help address those high electricity costs as well. I reached out to a couple different solar companies in the area, and not everybody does commercial solar.
Mhm.
So some of them just do residential, and they had to send me on my way. But Valley Solar is out of, I believe they're out of Holyoke.
Okay.
On August 17th.
Can you also just check when you're working with Valley Solar,
Yep.
the requirements under 30B?
Yes,
That
well,
we-
it will be something
Yeah.
that we have to go out to bid for
Okay.
formally, but I just want to get an idea
Sure.
on
Okay.
what this project might entail, and then
Mhm.
also cost for installation. On August 17th, Selectman Dixon and I attended the Congressman's farm tour at Carter Stevens. We learned a lot about the processes that the family-owned farm goes through to produce their dairy products. It was the first time I have been up into the backside of Carter Stevens farm, so it was really interesting to learn about the history of the farm and see where they put their cows in for milking and everything, and all of the hard work that the family has done to build up what they have today. At one of the last meetings, I was asked to get an update on our DG Matrix project that's going up on Spring Hill Road.
Spring Hill Road.
And so right now we are essentially waiting on Verizon to provide their make-ready estimates. National Grid has already done their survey work, and they just need to get together with Verizon to compare both of their surveys, and after all that happens, then the town can pay for the utilities for what the estimated amount is. The problem is that we're just working with a big company like Verizon, and they aren't always the easiest to
Well,
work with.
we're on that subject, can you follow up relatively quickly with Spectrum? I know that we've been going back and forth as to what their estimate was once and what it might be now.
Yes.
Greg, I know that you've had questions about that as well, and didn't know if you had anything to add to that, but I'd like to see Spectrum get something on paper for us for the.
Yes. They did before, but like I said, but my underlying question has always been, why did they come into our office one day and throw the 120 some odd thousand number at us to do everything, saying that part of that would be carried by them, and then come back with such a outrageously higher number,
Yeah.
like something like $500,000 to $750,000. I still always wanted some answers to
Yeah.
why that occurred.
Well, let's see if we can nail them down and
Yeah.
get somebody to.
I've been playing phone tag with our new representative, but we do have a call set up for tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay, serendipitous.
Because there's a couple of different things that I'm working on with them.
Well,
One of them
it's
being
really
this.
important as we, have the expectation that we're going to be, trying to look at a generalized plan for ARPA monies and so forth. And certainly, we had talked about on numerous occasions the need to address those individuals in our community that have no access.
Right.
Because that's really kind of sad. I mean, we've done what we can up in Spring Hill Road, but even that is much slower than we had hoped, but I know it's in the works at least, but
Right.
anyway.
And one of the benefits to having Spectrum build out the rest of the town is that they don't have to go through this type of
Right.
process.
Because they already own the
already-
poles or
yeah.
something, yeah.
They
right.
have a little bit more pull than a smaller company. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it works. But I have a call with them
Well,
tomorrow.
supposedly, according to our senators' representatives, that there is even additional monies that are available on some of these new infrastructure things for small communities. But my guess is there's strings attached, and whether we qualify or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that I haven't seen anything, I haven't looked in depth as to what the new infrastructure bill includes. I know that in the past, Barre has not qualified for any of the grants because we were too built out. We have something like 97, 96%, and you have to be much lower than that in order to qualify for the grants. But it's something I can definitely look into. We do have money set aside from Rep. Berthium. I think it's $20,000 or $25,000 that he got for the town that can be used towards this work. So, you know, we definitely want to make it happen, but I do have a call with them tomorrow morning. We're also going to talk about building out some internet to Felton Field. They requested, they're interested in putting up some cameras because of some recent issues with vandalism and whatnot. But the only way we can get cameras out there is if we have some internet service out there. So we're working on to see what that cost would be to bring internet out to the field and Wi-Fi. Moving on, the Board of Health partnered with the Public Safety Building and the Henry Woods Building to purchase the automatic water bottle fillers to replace our traditional like water bubblers that you press and put your mouth close to the little bubbler. So the Board of Health had a grant that was able to pay for these. We received them late last week, I think on Thursday. And hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we will have a plumber out here to install them. And this will also save us from having to purchase those big water jugs, because that's what we use right now to fill water bottles, is the Poland Springs water jugs. So that's exciting. I think that's, you know, a good modernization thing for the buildings. The Chief Rider Monument is going to be moved from the Barre Plains Commons to the Public Safety Building. Chief Sabourin applied for a grant from the Barre Savings Charitable Foundation to finance this move, which is about $2,900. So I did.
So the hope is that that would be something that's funded by grant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I reached out to the Ryder family and their phones. I don't know if the phone was disconnected, but it wouldn't let me leave a voicemail. So I was unsuccessful in trying to contact the family. But we did also connect with Charlotte Carew, who has been kind of the point person for maintaining and beautifying the Barre Plains Commons. And she thinks that this is an appropriate move, that the Public Safety Building is an appropriate location for this type of monument. So I believe it's going to go towards the front left corner of the building. Another facilities related project that we're working on is at the Henry Woods Building. We are looking to put a concrete pad underneath the 2 patio tables that are outside, as well as repair part of the retaining wall that is in front of the building. Some of the cement beams are crumbling, so I'm working with the instructor from Monty Tech as well as the students to complete this project. I got the estimate this morning, and it's going to be $1,000 for them for the materials.
And they would be available to do the project?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
Yeah, they met with us in person to review the project early last week, or maybe it was the week before that. And we just looked for a basic concrete pad to make the tables a little bit more accessible. And that's where we're going. I think it'll be a great thing for the folks that work in the building and, you know, other folks that walk around this area. I see people walking all the time, so they want to have a nice place to stop and sit.
Is there thought to providing some shelter over that, so in inclement weather,
I'm
they
not
can
sure
still
I
join the
understand.
tables?
Some shelter over the tables.
Right, like maybe we have a simple 4 posts with a new structure over it. Something else that tech might be able to do for us if we ask for the construction side.
Yeah, I think that
That
would
would
be.
make it usable into winter months, or
Into
certainly
fall.
make it a 3-month
Yeah.
Right.
usage and inclement weather usage, and people like to get out of this stuff a year. And
Yeah, I think that would be great.
so something to
Yeah.
think about.
One thing that I know people have been, who have seen me, have asked about in the common areas are benches and signs.
Okay.
You know, they
Benches.
asked this, obviously, us to, what's happening with the sign because we had discussed that as a board. And of course, we didn't get any real idea about placing it somewhere. We got a lot of pushback from certainly the Historical Commission was very concerned about its location, and so we sort of have left.
So you're
that.
talking about a lighted sign?
Well, I'm talking about in
Like
just.
the welcome
Of course,
to
there's
Barre.
two,
Yeah,
the welcome
yeah.
Barre signs down and the
Yeah,
lighted
and,
sign ones.
yeah, the one, for example, the Henry Wood sign
Yes.
that's done, but there's no post or something for it. Then there's putting one down at the Barre Plains Common,
Yep.
and, just replacing the benches that are all broken on the commons. They're in
Right.
terrible condition.
Okay.
And I know that that's something that the 250th committee is saying,
Okay.
So
For sure.
I think that we should at least look into whether we have conversations about ARPA funds or not on that. But
Okay.
I know Paul Cranston, maybe we should have a conversation with him. I know that there's some monies that he still has in that common project.
Yes.
Jean would know exactly, and we had talked about a lighted sign, and then we had talked about different locations for it. But,
The biggest concern, if I can interrupt,
Sure.
Was the design of the sign.
Yes.
Mr. Cranston was gonna, and hasn't yet, brought us back
Right.
some different things to look at, to offer an appearance.
Yeah.
Because we talked about at the time, some sort of brick structure with a nice sign,
And, yeah.
maybe plantings around it or behind it that lessen the impact of it on the common.
Right.
And we haven't seen any of that yet, so.
And one thing I know that in conversations with some police thing, they were concerned if we put it down to a very bad intersection, a sign right near, in front of Wholesome Foods, people are always constantly complaining about the fact that coming out of Valley Road is dangerous, trying to come across from, the Dunkin'
distance
Donuts.
isn't great
It's
there.
crazy.
Very rare people doing close to 30 there when they come around. those
You're right about that. It's pretty.
coming down the hill or
Yeah.
coming around the corner
Mhm.
from the 45.
So, anyway,
Yes.
so I know the pressure is on the 250th committee. They're saying these are things that seem small, that, fixing benches and getting signs and the things that probably were all a little, sometimes not at the top of our list, but things that probably we should kind of
Absolutely.
try to address in the next 18 months to 24 months, because they're working very hard to, make it special. Also, brought to my attention, and I know probably on all your minds, is taking a look at the painting situation on the town hall, the old town hall, whatever we call it this week. It's a little rough, it's in a little rough shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a big job, I know, to
Yes.
get that going.
Yeah. I'll look into getting some quotes for painting the Old Town Hall, and I will follow up. The last time I talked to Paul was actually back in May about this project, and we left off, he was gonna look at, he mentioned some of those kind of cosmetic things to fix on the common as well as the sign. So I'll follow up with him and see if they've made any progress on trying to get some cost estimates.
And do you have any idea what money amount he has left there in that grant?
There's approximately $24,000 after we
Okay.
finished paying for the bandstand
I was
work.
gonna say, because we get bandstand left to go, he's almost done, it looks like. He's down
You
next
said
to-
that at a lot of meetings. and
Well, I
said
think he's
do
down,
it.
he's been down in the basement now doing,
Oh, good.
the cement work was very damaged and
Yeah.
spalling. There was rebar showing through from
Yeah.
the cracks and it let water down through the concrete.
Oh.
So it's all been patch and repair on top. And the last part of that is now he's already sort of blasted all the bars and
Oh.
treated them so the concrete ready. He's been patching down there. I haven't stopped in to see how
Oh.
far along, but that project in itself,
Okay,
companies were quoting us
I know.
exorbitant fees like $50,000
I
to
know,
fix
he did it for far less than that, for sure.
Far less than that, right.
So at any rate, a lot of little odds and ends, and I know,
Yeah.
I'm sure Paul has so many other things on his plate that sometimes the common thing's probably not on the top of it, but if we can sort of get some insights from him,
Yes.
because there are little things that certainly from your vantage point, you could take care of by making some calls, and
Right,
it's nothing
scheduling,
that's going to bid. It's-
getting quotes and,
Yeah.
right, yeah,
So-
absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
I will work with him on that,
okay.
see if we can make those. Might not be, we'll see what we can get done before things freeze up, but
Yeah.
yeah. I know that the benches were just installed recently at the Barre Plains
Yes.
Common, and they look
They look fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah.
They got
And
the nice concrete pads.
Yeah,
they
and the
just-
Savings, Barry
Yes.
Savings Bank Foundation paid for those, so.
Yes, they
Okay.
did, and they shipped really quick. They were, the company we worked with was excellent to work with, so, and they weren't that expensive. I think they might have been $1,100
Yeah.
for a bench.
Yeah,
And they're the composite, not,
yeah, you don't have to
not
paint
something
them.
that's gonna fall apart anytime soon.
Video recording, I know that we had talked about this, the need to ensure that, one, we had the Geek Squad or tell us, okay, exactly, what do we need to buy? Where does it have to be located? And how are people trained? And do we have to, we have to have meetings with department heads and say, if you don't want to use this room because you'd like to be another, there's a very simple and relatively cheap way to do it, but you've got to do it.
Right. So, yeah, so I have the two options. We have an $80 webcam that provides wide angle view. So in a room, much smaller than this where you can't kind of pull the computer back, this camera would work for those purposes. That's about $80 for that camera. And then the second option that they gave us was much more
Elaborate.
high-tech, elaborate camera that would cost $565, which probably is much more than we would need.
Okay.
But they also included a omnidirectional microphone, which is kind of what you see in like
Yeah.
the conference rooms.
Right.
A little bit different than what's on this table, but that would allow for the microphone and speakers to provide more clarity in the sound and what you can hear coming out. So those are two of our options.
And those would still need laptops and
Yes.
other
Correct.
items to be provided along with software for recording.
Right, so we have these laptops, which would work more than enough for, what we would need, especially for like a small camera like this that just probably has a USB plug-in. I feel like these laptops would be more than sufficient, and we have,
Well, those only have one USB on them, right? Or did they upgrade as they got older?
oh, you know what? I don't even see any. Oh, yeah, it's actually one USB. Yep.
So if the camera and the speaker, or the microphone, one of those would have to be connected in some other manner if we were to use those.
Or, I don't know if it could support a hub for audio video, if you could put a hub in the USB and
Yeah.
port them together, or if that would, I would think the signals would be compatible, the computer could.
Worst case scenario, we'd have to buy a different laptop.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I know, so in the past, that circle speaker on the table,
Right.
we've used that, and it's Bluetooth.
Bluetooth is
Bluetooth,
yeah.
okay.
The only challenge that comes up with Bluetooth then is troubleshooting when there are issues at meetings.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
Right.
assuming the built-in microphone
yeah.
works sufficient if
Well, I
it
think,
does cut out.
I think what would be useful, perhaps before our next meeting, is that we purchase the $80 thing and the tub, and we have it set up
Test it out.
and do a test so that you could say, okay, here's what we did, and here's what we recorded this, you and Sandy talking to each other, whatever. So that we can say to department heads, okay, here's what we do, here's how we're gonna do it. Maybe we'll find that the $500 camera is really what we need. I hope not, but whatever.
I would
And-
doubt it.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that if we can do it for, buying the $80 camera and the little hub, that would make people have access to what they need to tape their meetings
Yep.
and to make them a copy of those meetings available to the public.
Right.
Do we have any idea of how many setups we need? Or how we plan to distribute them, anything like that?
Well, I would, as far as distribution, I would prefer a sign-out method, so it
Okay.
stays in my office, and when a board needs it, they could come sign it out and then return it after they're done. I don't know if we would need more than
4?
two,
2?
even
Yeah.
two, because
You'd often
it's not very
meet at the
often.
same
Yeah.
time.
It's not very often that more than two boards meet on the same night.
Well, if it's that simple.
I don't think it will be a. I don't think on our end to purchase it
No,
and,
And I would say if it is that simple and it works that well, then
Oh.
we put these in the hands of certain
the right
boards.
people.
We leave one down at DPW, we leave one in the
Good
meeting
idea.
room for the. the,
Shannon, yeah.
Right, but even your Mary Ann, where
Yeah.
the conservation and planning board are gonna meet,
Mhm.
you can leave one up in that room, they typically meet upstairs.
Yeah.
You know, we could spread a couple around, like we talked about recording locations, and we could even leave one down the senior center.
Yeah.
If we picked up 4 or 5 and had them around, it would be.
I do think that'd be a more effective way to
But we'll
to
start
get
with,
use of them.
but let's
Yeah.
start with 2 and see if we can make it
Yeah.
work, and if it goes.
Did they make
okay
any
with people.
recommendations software-wise, or video storage-wise, distribution?
no,
We
he,
haven't got into that.
well, when I talked to him about it, he didn't seem to think there would be any issue with using Zoom
Mhm.
as the method of recording.
Now, is that any problem with our Zoom license that we have?
Our current license, it is an issue because.
Isn't
we
an
pay-
issue or is?
It is an issue because we pay for the extra webinar capacity, but I don't think, if we're just really exclusively using it for recording the meetings and not using it to bring in other folks from outside, the boards and committees could probably get away with just making a free account for themselves and then downloading the video to their computer afterwards, because what we essentially pay for is the capacity to interact with people on meetings. So I guess,
Right. Do we even need Zoom for that in that case, or can we get the recording set up off of the proper software in the
So
computer?
that
We
it's
should be able to-
downloading, writing it right to the computer might be a better setup.
Right.
And then upload it to wherever we need to
Right, to
store
Rick
them after.
Deegan, and then once it goes to
The
Mr. Deegan, we can
YouTube.
override it in the computer and he'll
Yeah,
have it in
there,
storage.
there,
for
there
6
could be a
months.
better software option than Zoom for.
But I think if we talk with our
No,
tech
no.
people and make certain that they know what we're trying to accomplish and
Mhm.
that they get us access to the appropriate equipment so that we can get a couple, test
Right.
runs.
We should be able to get a computer that has
Yeah,
that capacity in the computer. That's what we try 1 or 2 and see if it works, and then we can start with 1 and see if it works.
Yeah.
And then we can always jump right to 2 or 5.
and then it's very simple to get people in a room and say to Mary Ann or to people who are going to be using this is hot, here, try it, use it. And once they get accustomed to how simple it really is, I think the reluctance will probably go away. And especially if they have easy access to the materials or to this equipment to make it work.
And if we can, if things can be uploaded to the YouTube channel, for example, as a storage spot
Yep.
later on, then things can be done when there isn't great Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
things like that. So-
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That is that for tonight.
Yeah, so if we can maybe at least have one of these ready to go by our next meeting,
Yep.
that'd
For
be
sure.
great.
For sure.
Okay, any questions for Jessica relative to the items she brought up to our attention? The only one that I have a little, hiccup about is to understand that we have now, how many thousands of dollars for new radios that we got to come up with because they no longer are really sufficient to the job of keeping us safe.
Right, and they haven't been, but now we're getting to the point where they can't repair the radios.
And so you're saying they're about $8,000 each?
Yes.
Wow. And they need how many?
That's the truck radios?
That's per radio for
Like,
each individual officer, and then what the fire department needs. I can pull it up really quick.
so 8,000 by,
8,000 by,
There's nothing in the regional contract, the rec, they don't get to buy a price on these, or?
actually, it does say in our regional contract that the towns are individually responsible for.
Right, but we may reach out to Mike
Yeah.
and find out that they have a pricing deal someplace. If not, Moriarty should look at that and see if they can get a pricing with the company if we go through them.
Yep.
And that might steer more member towns in that direction.
You know what, he didn't include.
They may
the
already have that.
radios on that.
what did he guesstimate, though?
That sounds awful high for a radio.
That does to me, but I don't know. whether-
Those are the cheaper radios, actually.
Wow.
Well, they do, they're confusing to use. They do, you have in the neighborhood of 10 bands, and each band might have 20 channels within the
Yeah.
band. So you have to know what you're looking for, what bands it's on, what channels it on, that's all the different frequencies. And a lot of these have lockout frequencies, security
Right.
frequencies. So even if you're listening to a frequency, if you're on the right security code and you scan, you can't hear it.
Right.
It's about
They are
18
complicated.
radios.
18 times 8,
18 radios.
$144,000. roughly.
easy.
So, yeah, so the current radios are not P25 compliant, which is a federal regulation for public safety radios. And then the other issue that we have is that our agreements with Hardwick, since Hardwick is on a different dispatch, we cannot communicate with Hardwick with the current radios, so it is hard for us to provide a service, and, you know, in the event that we need mutual aid, it's also hard to, you know, communicate, which can put the community at risk, as well.
So where do they dispatch out of
The state police
state police? Oh.
in New Braintree.
Yeah.
So,
We do have frequencies on the radios, but it's either a different station on the radio or a different radio. They still, I believe, are operating, I haven't gone to training in so long now, but I think they're still operating off of a second radio in the truck when you go to things in Hardwick or some other places.
yeah, it's not a great, I know that
Not the best, and the guys that are full-time remember when they're gonna pull out the other radio, what they're gonna do with it. And those of us that go once in a blue moon now, you're gonna struggle.
yeah, I know that the fire chief specifically has the most of the issues with it, especially delivering ambulance service to Hardwick. They don't always get that call because of the way that the dispatch that Hardwick uses has to communicate with us. They have to communicate with us through our dispatch.
So I'm going to ask a dumb question, and I apologize in advance for this. Why is like this new news to us? Is it just that they know about it all the time, but they haven't talked about it to the budget and finance or to us before?
So the challenge, and this is why we're addressing it in the IMA, is that we were told every single year we're applying for the grant. We're applying for the grant.
And they were hopeful.
And they were hopeful, and this is something that I brought up to them in the past, maybe a year and a half ago when I was still relatively new, and I said, grants are great, but we still need a plan to replace these. And getting radio replacements, really getting any type of public safety equipment replaced from a grant is very hard. So I think that we should have, the dispatch should have communicated a little bit earlier that we should be.
This is the Rutland group.
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
and that's why we're addressing those issues now,
Okay,
to hopefully
okay.
prevent those issues.
So is
in the
it
future.
wise, and I think it was John who brought this up, is it wise that we buy all the new ones at the same time or stagger them? I mean, this is not my area of
And is it wise to
expertise.
buy the cheapest one?
I would prefer that we don't buy them all at once, but I don't know if we have a choice.
At this time.
And maybe Lieutenant, you came in at a great time. You might know something about a radio.
Actually, no, that would not be my expertise.
Well,
I apologize.
I don't know, you might know a little bit more than me, but if we only replace some of the radios for the department and not everybody is using the same radio, it might make it challenging for you guys to communicate with each other.
It probably just depends on the quality of the radio itself. I'm sure you can get them on the same frequency to be able to operate. But
Just seems like,
Right.
it seems like a lot of money when you say
Yeah.
the cheapest one is $8,000.
Yeah, I don't know if that is out of the two different radios. There was one radio that the fire chief prefers, and there's one radio that the police chief prefers, and the one that the fire chief prefers was the less expensive one. I don't know if it's the cheapest on the market, but that's just the
Well,
one that.
something obviously for us to do
Right.
some
And
research.
they can have different radios in fire and police. They serve different purposes, and they can have what suits their department, as long as it's a matter of being able to contact dispatch, and dispatch contact you. And in this case, we're talking about the ambulance, it's a matter of being able to be contacted by the state police that are dispatching for Hardwick. the radios, if you can hit that frequency and you can make that communication, then those radios will communicate as well, because they make the frequency of communication. But,
Given that these aren't meeting a federal regulation for what they should be doing,
We don't have a lot of options.
yeah. And granted, grants usually go to situations where it's worse than we should let it get, so I wouldn't put
Right.
myself into that.
Even the fire chief, this year, he applied for a grant himself just for, I think he partnered with OCAM to apply for the grant, because regional grants typically get better scores. And at this point, he has not heard back from the grant. But he's trying as well. You know, we have,
Yeah.
it's not just the
Right.
dispatch that's trying, like, we also have our folks trying as well to replace these with the grant. It's just,
I'd definitely reach
So
out to Mike
competitive.
Moriarty, though, and see if they have any pricing available through the dispatch.
yes.
Because I'm sure when we just brought the new member towns in, part of the original agreements is they supply
Yeah.
radios when you join. So they must have something established, I would hope, that's
Right.
getting them a price break on volume or something.
Right, and I talked to the director of the dispatch about that as well, because not only does it come down to a cost, but it would make the most sense for all of the departments in the dispatch region to have the same radios as well, even if they are the town of Barre property for purposes of, you know, price-wise. It could help, and then also, I don't know if we were ever going to be in a situation where, you know, emergency-wise, they needed to share radios, or, you know, they were in a mutual situation. I don't know, but it would just be best to have a uniform radio across the district.
Yeah, I would disagree on it, just because I don't think, the lieutenant's not gonna give up his radio. Every officer has their own radio. They have one in the vehicle. We have one in every fire truck, every fire apparatus, and there's one radio in their truck for every person that sits in a seat. So anyone on the EMS side that goes out will have a radio on their individual already. We do not hand out $8,000 radios to the public ever.
I wasn't
I'm just saying, so,
suggesting to hand them
the
out
people
to
that
the
go,
public.
we're all gonna have communication abilities within their hands when they leave. You know, that's, when you
Mhm.
leave a truck to go for a fire scene, you should have a tool and a radio and a light.
Right.
And those are all right within hand reach of the seat when you're sitting down the truck, so those things should always be on your person when you leave.
Right. I was thinking of a more extreme situation.
But still, anyone that's involved in the EMS or the police will have radios assigned to them, and they're gonna have possession of them. There shouldn't be any need to share, especially into departments.
Well, if we're looking to, you know, within this fiscal year to make this purchase, that will take some work at a town meeting probably, unless we're, again, spending more ARPA funds,
Which is,
and then the three of us can do that. But,
which is where it's likely to go, but we could also wait to have a special town meeting
Yeah,
in
well-
a couple months, won't hurt, and let the town
yeah,
decide. they'd
well,
like to buy them with ARPA funds.
what's your expectation for the time frame for when we would be ready for a special town meeting? Because we will have our finances clearly delineated, and we will have a known free cash number.
So the goal is going to be September 30th to close out the books. That has been, you know, I've worked with the treasurer, and she says that everything is on track for September 30th, which is
And then
a
we've got
couple
it
weeks away, but a very early closing
for Barry.
for Barry.
But then we obviously, once that,
And then
we
it
go to the
takes some
Department of
time.
Revenue. We have to make all of the, you know,
Right. So I'm-
meet the requirements of the Department of Revenue.
I'm expecting November, late November, early December.
Well, once we get towards November anyways, we should try to plan a special town meeting anytime in late November through the new year, because of the Christmas holiday and
Yeah.
New Year's, and people
Yeah.
just are not available to go to a
Not
town meeting.
Not
so.
paying attention. I can get that.
Um,
Okay, so that's just one of our many probably concerns and all. And I know now we're moving to select board reports or concerns and so forth.
To dwell on the special town for a moment,
Okay.
if we kind of work it backwards now, we promise people we try to give them a month
Yeah.
or go from warrant.
Mhm.
Try to get an idea how much time we're gonna need and when we make the decision by, say, realistically, if we wanted to have this in the end of January, we've got to post for 2 weeks in special town. And then we would need to have the warrant at least close at least a week before that.
Mhm.
I prefer 2 weeks before, so we have time to make adjustments.
So we'd open the warrant.
2 months before.
yeah.
You know, so that it could be open for a
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
So if we're looking for, you know, say January 24th, just picking a date, you'd need to be advertising around November 24th. So I would say as soon as we hear back from the state that it's approved, we should immediately, if not even as a special board meeting, to set a date for that,
Yeah.
just to give an idea. Because we promised people we'd try to give them a month, and it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
We've just got to, you know, we said we can at town meeting, maybe not special, we can in this case.
Yeah, and the concern that obviously we all have is, what is that special, what is going to be the free cash number?
Right.
When we're already 360,000 and change in the red,
Well,
in negative.
The first has to go
Nothing.
back, the first has to
Yeah.
pay back.
Yeah, for ourselves,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah,
We've got to get the money paid back.
Okay.
Well,
first.
the chapter 90 is taken care of, so we're in the positive.
yeah, yeah.
We're,
Well,
But we're also negative and
Yeah.
because our number was off
Off,
from
yeah.
what we'd
Yeah.
assumed and
So-
used.
So hopefully, we'll have some good insight
Mhm.
by the 30th of what we're
Yes.
submitting to Department of Revenue. Because
Right.
we'll have an idea of what they're going to certify.
Right.
They may nickel and dime us, but
Yeah.
we will be
Let's-
in the ballpark anyway.
You say free cash is better because Chapter 90 come in, but Chapter 90 doesn't change the fact that free cash is negative.
Yes.
So the Chapter 90 may have come in, and unless we're
And
certified
you-
with
and
this
all-
free cash, it
right.
won't be certified until next free cash. So Chapter 90 was certified with this free cash certification?
So the reason that
Correct.
the reason that why our free cash was negative was because the
Chapter
chapter
90
90 wasn't reported. So now that the chapter 90's been reported, and in between the time that chapter 90 was last reported and the end of the fiscal year, there were no invoices submitted for chapter 90. So we don't have any outstanding chapter 90 funds. So we are not in the negative. So everything that we were in the negative for, we've gotten reimbursed for.
At the point where they declared our free cash, and it was going to be acknowledged as negative.
Right.
The Chapter 90 funds coming in after the fact can't change that.
Well, they can't
be
change,
certified till
Jake,
the
they,
next year.
yeah, right. Well, the certification of free cash, because technically, when June 30 comes, July 1 comes, technically, there's no free cash. Because you
Correct.
have to go back and get it certified before it can be used at a town
Correct.
meeting. So whatever we're going to certify is going to be available to us to spend.
But if it's a negative number, is my point.
Well-
It
well-
should still be a negative number, should it not?
No, it should
No,
not.
because we did get the reimbursement, like, we got that money back from the state.
Right, after they,
After they certify it
after
as
So
they
they-
negative.
certified.
They,
Negative,
that
right.
zeroed us out. And then we also took care of a couple of the smaller grants that were hurting against us. There was like a $10,000, I don't know.
We should
like-
be, I don't think it's going to be a grandiose number at all, but I think we should be in the black.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I was expecting, I was hoping 500,000, 600,000, maybe more, but targeting 600,000, which would leave us a couple hundred in the black, which would be good.
Right, well,
But-
we,
And
yeah,
then next year, of course, then the Chapter 90 funds that came in will be realizing next year's free cash is my point, which will put us,
Well, because we just have to
That's what I'm saying, that-
make sure we file for it this time.
well, no, but what I'm saying, free cash certification is gonna be everything that came in, and we expected to have a lot of excess money because of the previous town meeting, where we had legally over-predicted excise revenues,
Mhm.
which came in late.
Mhm.
So we wound up receiving the revenues, and then we'd already refunded it throughout free cash, so we paid double in other words,
Mhm.
we had the guess right, the number was solid. And then those excise revenues would have just been free cash.
mhm,
But since we didn't have them in, we had to pay for that up front. So we put double free cash in for about $250,000. So we knew there was a good free cash money to start coming in this year. That's probably why we should be above. What I'm saying is, what we just got in for Chapter 90 funds is not part of that free cash number. That will hit next year, free cash number, and put us
Well,
ahead
see,
next year.
you mean
significantly.
in fiscal '23, that's what we're working on, okay, fiscal '23.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, so fiscal '23, technically, we have no free cash, unless you've had things certified by the state No town has any free cash at this time.
Right.
They have to be closed out for FY '22 and,
Right.
and so forth. So technically, we're waiting to find out what we will be certified to spend in FY '23. So,
Right, and at the time when we turned our books over, we were negative $385,000.
Yes.
And that's what they're certifying.
that's for FY '22,
That's what they certified last year.
for FY '22.
For FY '22.
We were so late and certified, that's why you're probably saying
Yeah, we're talking
confused.
about Chapter 90 funds that were spent back in like
FY
December
21.
of 20, yeah, December of 2020, that never got reported for reimbursement. And that's what hit for last year's free cash. But since everything that was late in being applied for reimbursement for, since that was all caught up by FY '22, when we closed out FY '22, we had $0 outstanding for reimbursements for Chapter
Okay,
90.
so it was in before this year's books.
Yes.
went out.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So we missed it getting on
Right.
the super late last year's books is
Right.
when we missed the chapter.
Correct.
Right.
And that's
Put us
why I went
negative.
negative.
Right, and then
Yeah.
before they closed the books this year to submit to
Right.
the state, those funds were in.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we
Yes,
made
that's gonna be,
sure,
that's gonna be
Yeah.
a hell of a number now,
Yeah.
yes. that's
Then
gonna
we-
be
I
a-
don't know.
then we
I-
made
should be.
sure that there was $0 spent between when they last closed out and the end of the fiscal year to avoid any other delinquencies, because nothing else was gonna be reported between, I think they,
It's exactly like the E&D account at a regional school district. Technically, come June 30th, what we haven't encumbered, through working with the towns, you have zero, certified E&D.
Right, until
And
you
then
balance your books for the end of the year.
Balance your books and stuff, and then you can spend it. Once it's certified, you can spend it up through the very end,
That year.
of that year. Then you go to, technically, you really have money in the bank, but it's technically said zero. And so,
Right,
we should have some
Intention
money.
is to leave some free cash over every year to make sure you start the year with some free cash.
Well,
You don't wanna try to
that's
spend it all.
a fantasy we all have, yes. So, anyway,
It's a goal.
we're working very hard. I know we
That's the
have,
certification we're expecting on September 30th or around then.
well,
Right, so everything
we
will
won't
get-
we won't get a
Right.
certification at that point. We will have made application saying, this is what we think we have.
Right.
Then the Department of Revenue
They go
will go
through
through it, and they'll say,
Going down.
well, no, this doesn't count, nope, this doesn't count, nope,
Right.
you can't do that. And then they will send us back a certified number, and that's what we call the certified free cash that can be spent in FY '23.
yeah.
Okay,
And
good to go.
if we did balance our budgets properly, as we believe we did the other years, we should have that $200 and some odd thousand for the excise double pay back in free cash, as well as the 300 that we just put into it to cover.
And I pray you're right.
We should.
Well,
If
we'll
if-
see.
If we don't, I'm gonna be looking hard at some numbers, because that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. So anyway, anything else under Select Board? Again, please try to take care of Spectrum and at least getting some info from them, because I know that we're eager to try to understand what's going to happen Spring Hill Road, but what's going to happen with
For
the
the
other
rest of
90
them.
people or whoever it was that aren't, don't have internet
Right,
of any consequence
Yeah.
at this point.
yes.
Any other stuff?
Certainly, I dealt with a gentleman that's a veteran, a disabled veteran, trying to get the veteran excise abatement, which I never heard of, so I looked it up, and it's very simple to find in the law books. And a disabled veteran who has 60% or greater physical disability, which it's not so much physically you can't move, but you're disabled and unable to perform your job.
Right.
Is allowed a free registration of motor vehicle, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as long as it's not for a commercial vehicle. And they're also entitled to abatement of their taxes for said vehicle from their town.
Okay.
Gentleman applied for that abatement. The assessors didn't recognize and identify immediately what to do with it. It took some time. They waited for the Board of Assessors to meet, who investigated it. And
They
took-
met tonight, right?
Took a month and change, and they finally said, oh, yes, he's qualified for that, and Jesse promptly filled out the abatement form, and it was sent over to the treasurer's office. Now, in this particular circumstance, as I've come to understand, the way our rebates, abatements work in town is the treasurer works on one group at a time. They don't take them as they come in week by week, they take them group by group. So as they had just finished excise tax abatements, there was none going up, his hits first in the pile for next month. and they start working on real estate and so on, then a month later, they go back and they process the whole pile. Once that whole, now we were at this point 2.5, almost 3 months down the road before that occurred. Then it goes up to our accountant, who would then process
The paper.
all these authorizations, put them in warrant form, that we would review the bills and sign that warrant, and then the checks are written and would be paid. Since we typically have 200 articles getting paid on the A&P warrant, you can't squeeze in a mere 100 and some odd extra abatements in the same time. So they're processed in the payroll week and the off week, and then held on to until the next warrant comes out in place of the warrant. So this makes another 3-week delay until the gentleman gets his check.
There can't possibly be 100+ abatements for registrations every month. That's
No, but it's
insane.
I think when this occurred, I think there were more.
Oh,
I may have my
you're
numbers.
exaggerating.
I may have my numbers way off.
Okay, because I was going to say, I don't think,
The problem is when you do have.
So this
and you can
gentleman has
see,
waited an
You do have
extraordinary-
100+ checks on our A&P
Okay.
warrant, to say all of a sudden in that 1 week here, stick these extra 50 in.
slows things down.
This is why, remember, Jean is here, not full-time, she's here part-time. And this is why we have an assistant that goes up to that office to help out during these times, because it's a lot to process. And I did talk to Jean about it, and I said, well, couldn't you possibly, this guy's waited a couple months, couldn't you possibly pull his out and just place it on this warrant that's coming in 2 days?
Right.
And she said, well, I guess technically I could, but who am I to single out one taxpayer's. And I get it, she's covering herself and following procedure, which I expect people to do. And I said, I'm not asking you to do it, I feel like for disabled
Are
veterans.
you recommending it to the board tonight?
We'll get there.
Okay.
But I thought, and I've had discussion with the gentleman, he's Lieutenant New today, about this, and they have lots of concerns that all the abatements should come quicker. But I understand they simply can't with the way the process works. There's no way to make them happen quicker. But when we have the situation like this particular one, which happens with all sorts of different things, where a veteran has some sort of payment or benefit available to them, and it requires interaction on behalf of the town, I would suggest that we have a written policy, something like this,
I knew you were working on something.
that basically says the veteran's agent may, on behalf of that individual, walk said paperwork through the system. So in this case, they could have taken it to the assessors and waited to the assessor. If they weren't ready to approve, take it to the Board of Assessors, get it approved, bring it back to the assessor, they sign it, walk it across the hall to the treasurer, and then it shall be processed as soon as possible by the treasurer.
Okay,
So when she's in,
Now, this would
she would
mean that the veteran's agent has the responsibility for ensuring that the
If he
veteran
so chooses.
is eligible.
well, this is all assuming they're eligible. If they're not eligible, if you take it to the.
Well, I know, but who's going to assume that they're eligible? The paperwork is done. Does the Board of Assessors do the eligibility
Yes,
claim? Okay,
yes.
so.
It has to pass that, it has to be vetted there first, so he can take it to the
Okay, so
assessors.
that's more than a walkthrough, because if they hand me that as an assessor, I have to go and do the paperwork, or, do the history.
Right, but rather than it come in
So-
and get thrown in a pile, it goes to the top of the pile and gets processed for a disabled veteran.
Mhm.
I think that the veterans who have given up time from their families and their lives, and some given their lives, others given parts of their bodies or fractions of their bodies, I don't think that giving them a preferential treatment, in someone like this that's on a disability, 100% disability, has a fixed income, very fixed, and times like this, as we know, my fuel costs this year have jumped $5,000. Heating costs are going to jump a couple $1,000s. Food costs for everyone have jumped several $1,000s. How does someone on a fixed income, which is what we'll find with lots of people in town probably, how do you absorb this $10,000, $15,000 upgrade? And certainly, the holding on to $600 or $700 of their money for an extra 3 months is painful to them. And I would think, I would challenge anyone in town, if they think I'm wrong, they think I'm out of line, tell me. But I think we owe that much to our veterans to say
I don't
that-
think you're out of line. I think it's a good recommendation. I just think we have to be cautious to think that someone comes to me, they have to go to the veterans agent. It would be helpful if the veteran agent would, find out the details and say, this is an eligible claim, and then hand it to the processing for the money.
I think you'll find in most cases, the veterans agent Tony's well aware of what's eligible, not eligible. But
No, he has to make sure.
But it has to get vetted. In this case, he would take it to the assessors.
Yeah.
Then the assessors, if the working assessor doesn't know, it goes to the Board of Assessors, they make the determination. It may well take a month again until that
Yes,
happens with
yeah.
them. We're not going to ask them to meet early to do it. but at the earliest first meeting, we'd like them to address it. And then when it comes back, if it is approved, if it's denied, I just said he
Yeah.
shall act on it.
Yep.
If it's denied, then he shall deny it.
Mhm.
And if it's approved, then the agent could take it across to the treasurer and say, this abatement is approved, we'd like this check. And they could put that on top of their list of payments to be made. And then once it's done, I wouldn't suggest that he then takes that paperwork, internal paperwork from there up to the accountant. That can still go internally to the accountant, but when it's in the accountant's hands, he can tell the accountant it's coming, we can look for that check. And if it's carryable up to the accountant, then I'd say let him do it. And the accountant can process that at her first opportunity and place it on the, not make a special warrant.
Well,
We
no.
could say make a special warrant, we'll come in and sign it, but I don't want to go to that
No,
extreme.
that's a lot of.
But say, place it on the next A&P warrant. That way, if it's tomorrow, she can process it today and it's on the warrant tomorrow. If the warrant's in a week, you process it today and it's on that warrant for next week. But it certainly would cut this, probably total for this guy 4.5 months, down to maybe a month and a half.
No,
And that's a big difference.
I think that there's certainly some, I haven't seen your policy, but I don't have a problem with it. I think a disabled veteran, obviously, if he or she is eligible for this, we should make every effort to ensure that the eligibility is known and that we address it. To say it within 90 days, to say, I don't know what your stuff says, but, we'd have to look at what.
We can read through how I wrote it, and we can tweak it from there
Yeah.
and see if different wording makes sense. I did it rather quickly, as you saw.
I did see.
But I'm sure I didn't write it flawlessly first time through.
No,
but
but no-
could be
I
close.
would say there's a lot of merit to the idea.
Yeah.
I think it's, a good direction if we can just, get a copy of the proposal to read through. And-
Well, I will gladly read through it quickly, and you can see where it stands, and if we want to kick it around till next meeting, we can, it
Well,
doesn't need to be
well,
done tonight.
No, I would love to kick it around at least till next meeting, because obviously if we can make a copy so each of us can have that.
Well, you want to read that?
Well, yeah, sure, I mean,
Maybe a typed copy.
yeah.
But, yeah.
Because my only concern is to make certain that we don't make a policy that is impossible for
Right.
the finance people to make happen, because then we all look bad in the end, so I
We
think
want to
it's,
have an opportunity to get input from all the people
yeah.
in those positions.
But I
who
think
might be
by our
impacted
next
by this,
meeting,
but
we should be
I
able
don't
to
see
move
why it
something
wouldn't
forward.
be possible to accomplish.
Talking with Jean, her objection seemed to be, who would she to single it out? And she even said, well, you guys can make a policy.
Yeah,
Because then we're giving her, hey, Select Board says I'm going to sign it, I can do it. I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. And I think we'd find the same thing with the accountant. None of them want to step out and say, I'm going to put this person ahead of
Right,
everybody else
exactly.
because it's not their job. And I get that, and I respect that, don't get me wrong.
I think it's a great idea.
If I can take 30 seconds, I'll
Sure.
read it. It shall be a policy that whenever a veteran has a benefit available to them which requires interaction within town departments, a veterans agent shall be authorized to walk the paperwork through the process in order to expedite said benefit.
Mhm.
An example, veterans excise abatement. Agent would present the abatement paperwork to the assessors, and the assessors shall act on that paperwork as soon as possible. It doesn't say approve, act. If the abatement is granted, the agent can then bring the paperwork to the treasurer, who shall prioritize the veteran's payment as soon as possible. Doesn't mean instantly. When she's in, next day in the office, she can certainly take 3 minutes to process a check. The agent would then bring the paperwork to the attention of the accountant. Now, I said attention because I don't know if that paperwork can be hand carried up or if that has to stay internal once it's in payment going to, I don't know. I would assume it could be hand carried. And the accountant who shall ensure the payment who is available on the next, payment is on the next available A&P warrant. So that they're not going to sign it that minute, but make sure before the next warrant comes out,
I'm
take that one document out.
I'm assuming there are other
then-
benefits disabled veterans have and get
I would assume
rebates
there are
for.
quite a
I
bit,
don't
but
know.
that's
but-
just an example. I just
Yeah.
wrote that as an
Yeah.
example, because
So-
that's something
So you're
that's
going
one
to
of-
give that to Jessica, so
I'll
we
do
can
that,
have
and that'll involve the full gamut. That's why I
Yeah.
stuck with that example that involves as many steps as I can think of.
Mhm.
Other than, obviously typically, the veterans agent pays the benefits that are due. They apply to him, he writes them out. And I would assume,
I would accept a motion from a member of the board that we pursue a consideration of a policy that would recognize these special opportunities afforded to disabled veterans within our community.
I would make that motion.
a second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg, for bringing that to our attention.
let's hope it gets somewhere and does
Oh,
some
well,
good, because
well-
it sure was frustrating to know there's nothing I could do for them.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do
Yeah.
for them.
Okay. I think that we have, anything else we've got for?
There's a contract for the mass weights and measures, which is, it's pretty perfunctory. So
Yeah.
essentially, we've had this contract. Every community in the state's been using the state's weights and measures folks to do weights and measures in the community for many, many years. And then it come to find out nobody actually ever had a contract. So the state's like, we will institute contracts now.
I
Annual
assume this is
contracts.
for like fuel pumps, scales
Yeah.
and stores,
Yes.
such and things like
Yeah,
that.
so since we're a small community, our contract is relatively small. I've seen a lot of people asking for job descriptions, so apparently in other communities, the contract is much higher. So it's only about a $1,300 contract, so
Oh.
what I need from you all tonight is a vote to accept the contract, and I will
18.
sign it. And this will become an
And
annual
the
thing.
contract is in here, yeah. It's
I
not
do
like
think-
it's not like we have anybody else who can do this. You have to have
Not for
certifications, so.
Yeah, not for $1,300. I
Yeah.
think it might be a little bit challenging for us to find somebody, even if we were to do like a regional agreement, who would, and it's such a small, I think we only have 4 different accounts that use the weights and measures, but I do think that we should look at, because essentially the town pays a fee for the state to come and inspect these businesses. I do think that the business should probably pay for that. So we should, in the future, look
So
at.
for $1,300, anybody who has issues of weights and measures, that they do
Yes.
the inspection
Correct.
and have for years, but now they have a contract.
And now they have a contract.
So we've been paying them without a
We've been
contract.
paying the state for
Forever.
years and years, just like every other community in
Okay.
Massachusetts has been paying for years and years. And then we got an email a couple of weeks ago saying, we've been doing this for everybody for years, but no contract has ever really existed. So,
Has this been reviewed by any legal
I
things on our
didn't,
side?
I didn't send it into any legal review just because.
I just
it
always
is a-
have a little hesitation anytime there's, extensive indemnification clauses like this.
Right, I think it's just, it's kind of codifying what we've been doing for
Well, it says here, if
years.
Barry would like the division to continue to provide weights and measures services, please execute the enclosed contract and return it to me by December 1st, 2022. The new annual contract term will be January 23 to December 31, 23.
I thought the dollar amount is 1,827, not
18,
1,300.
no,
I thought that's what I was looking for. I thought I read 18 when I went through it earlier.
Okay, so it's $1,800, but I don't, if we were to have our council review it, I don't think we would get very far with the state. I think they're just gonna be like, this is the contract.
Well, see, it appears there's other ways in which you could meet the requirements of the state, but the state basically has been sort of doing this for us, is what they're saying.
And they're the
Correct.
enforcing authority, so
Yeah.
if someone has a complaint, it's gonna go to the state anyways.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
right.
and then, if you supposedly had someone else inspect it, then that's gonna make a bigger investigation, I would think, to check out their inspection methods, and, it's one thing to find that something is, they do the annual inspection, something's running a little bit off, and they have to have it repaired. It's another thing if something was inspected a month later, it's way off, then you know it was tampered with if you do the inspection. And I don't know if that really comes into play. I would imagine anyone doing these inspections has to be under some kind of scrutiny as well, but,
I would look for a motion to accept the current contract presented by the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, Division of Standards, that would continue to provide us with a fee for weights and measures services.
and without looking up the general laws, I read through it, and nothing alarms me from what I read. But I don't know what all the specific chapters and laws are.
Well, I mean, we've got until
Of course.
December 20,
Um,
December, so if people would like to take another, a week or two to review this and we deal with it again at our next meeting, that's fine with me.
I think that might be best
Okay.
course of action.
Okay,
Give
so
you a
we'll,
chance to look up some of those general laws, see what
so
they're.
we'll just delay that
Yeah.
and put it on the agenda for next time as
Okay.
well.
Thank you.
Okay, we have taken care of previous, beginning, we had some people here, so we took care of the town property. Everybody who has been approved, the Q Drug Ice Cream Social for September 29, Circle of Song, there's a group that uses the Old Town Hall. Special events, Christmas in Barre, and Joe's Journey for Recovery 5K and Cornhole, September 10. They have completed all of the required paperwork and have all the required approvals, so we did vote that earlier in the meeting. Moving to boards and committees, can you tell me how Master Plan Steering Committee is being organized? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of people applying to be on it.
It's been very challenging for me to recruit people. I started recruiting several months ago and got no feedback. So, but a couple, maybe around June, I did get a couple of names, and that's when we approved those.
So far,
names.
we've done Paul Cranston.
Paul Cranston, Doug Martin, and Chris Higgins. Steve Salvadore, I was communicating with him about the Trails project that they're doing, and I said, hey, would you be interested in serving on the Master Plan Steering Committee? I think you would be a great, contributor to that, and he agreed. We were going to appoint a select board member at one of the last meetings that I know that John had indicated he was interested in a couple months ago when I talked to him about that.
Is she just making this up, or is that real?
I
Yeah.
mean, I've always been a fan of master plans. That was one of the things I
Yeah.
mentioned a bunch when I was campaigning.
We
as
weren't
well.
going to assume and do it without you saying you wanted to do it here, so.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I wouldn't have mentioned that if we didn't have a prior conversation, but I also didn't think that they should appoint you without you being here, so we,
No, that's totally fine.
So-
we bumped that off.
So how
and
many people are you hoping to get involved, and?
About 9 folks need to be involved in order to make this, I think, a cohesive committee.
So you've got about 5 now? with
5
John?
now, and I've been working with the library to try and get someone, the Council on Aging to get someone, who else? The Conservation Commission, I need one. So I just wish,
So do
that
you
there
want
are
us
more
to
people.
do a little work for you?
I think now,
Have you reached out to the Business Association?
after, the Business Association hasn't been active since before COVID.
Well, I mean,
Um,
you've got a lot of, you've got Steve Salvadore, he's a kind of a business guy.
Chris
You've got-
Higgins, also a
you've got
business
Chris
guy.
Higgins.
And Paul Cranston, kind of,
Yeah.
a business
Yeah.
guy.
Well, attorney, legal.
Attorney,
yeah,
legal,
business.
owns his
All
own
right, fair
business.
enough.
So I think we're definitely strong on the business side of things.
Yeah, I think you really need some sort of a, like a community kind of person who's interested in
Yeah.
people and
Maybe
kids.
Farmer, well, a school committee, I think a school committee member would be
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
But I think now that after tonight, when we have enough members now to at least start meeting, because before tonight we didn't have enough members to meet.
I'm sure we can get a school committee person.
After tonight, I think they can start meeting and they can focus more on recruiting those last couple of members, because I know that CMRPC, they've done all of the kind of the background work. They've already done a lot of plans for us to begin with, so they had all of the data. So now it's about kind of forming that data into a bigger plan and using the steering committee as a way to navigate all of that. So, yeah.
Okay. So do you want us to approve Steve Salvadore this evening?
Yep, so approve Steve Salvadore, and then
Now, do we have a letter from him indicating his interest to do this?
it is in the packet. I think it should be, no, it should be underneath the agenda.
Oh, yes, it is. Steve Salvadore, he just filled out a form, okay.
Yep, yeah, so I just asked him, he's never formally served on a board or committee, but he felt that given, his volunteer work essentially to build out, and I think that somebody who has the organization skills and the ambition to volunteer time and resources to coordinate a project as big as making trails.
So he doesn't have to
like
tell us if he's a registered voter, and he doesn't have to tell us if he's a citizen?
Only if I think he's applying to be a, on the, like, election workers
Well, no, I just wondered, it says for appointment to the Finance Committee, you have
Oh,
to
the
say you're a
Finance-
registered voter, and you
Oh.
have to say you're a US citizen, but you don't have to say that for anything else you're doing in the count.
Right, because those are two requirements to be, like, the only two requirements
Interesting.
to be on the finance committee is that you are a resident of Barre and a registered
Well,
voter.
I would assume, and I
Get
know,
a skin in the game.
yeah, well, I mean, I
Control
know
the
Steve
funds.
is a resident of Barre, yeah,
Right.
so that's a good thing. Okay,
Right.
all right,
I make a motion, we appoint Steve Salvadore to the Master Plan Steering Committee.
Second.
all those in favor?
Right?
With our thanks.
Yes.
I
And,
make a motion, we appoint John
Yeah,
Dixon
there
to
we
the
go.
Planning Board Steering Committee.
I second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Do I abstain on this one?
No,
or-
you can-
No, you can
All
go.
right,
You
I'll
can agree to be there if you want,
Yep.
or you can say no, we can't.
And with our thanks.
yes.
All right.
Okay, moving on. We have a resignation to accept,
He said that.
Oh,
Yes.
a resignation to accept from Erin. She was a recent employee. I think she's only worked for us for how long?
About 5 months, 6 months?
5 months, 6 months. So she's going off to a place where she's going to make a little more money, I guess, doing a similar job.
She's essentially was promoted to the department head version, the actual treasurer collector in another community.
Community. Well,
Nice.
our congratulations to her, and unfortunately, another position for us to try to fill.
Yes.
Okay. I would look for a motion to accept her resignation
So
effective
So,
for 31 August. I guess she's already gone.
Second.
She's already gone, yes.
Okay, those in favor?
aye?
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, we have wage authorizations in, let's see, the Barre Fire Department, we have a wage authorization for, let's see, Jennifer Walker. Jennifer Walker is on call, still on call, FD3 firefighter. There's no specific wage classification step. Is there anything else we need on that form?
It is?
It's FD step,
I
Yes,
guess
so
it's-
18.33 an hour, and the position is FD3 probationary.
Oh, so that's an on-call 1833, okay.
So it's, she's not a full-time
Qualified
or
firefighter.
part-time,
Yeah.
yep, she's just a call.
So we need a motion on that, John?
Yep. Make that motion to authorize wages for Jennifer Walker.
And
At
I would,
1833.
I would second that motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, abstaining. Catherine Flick for town clerk. She's an individual who will be being an administrative assistant. She's going to be at classification 3, step 1, at an hourly rate of $17.68. We need a motion to accept.
Move to accept Catherine Flick as an assistant for the clerk.
Second,
Second.
we have a motion made and seconded. Catherine Flick, those in favor?
Aye?
Okay, it looks like an approval there. We have from the Barre Police Department, part-time police officer, step 0 to 1 year, at $22.15 per hour for a gentleman named of Zachary Warner.
So that's his current
That's his current.
position,
He's going
and
to
he's
full-time.
being
Okay.
promoted to
So he's going to
full-time.
full-time at $22.27 at 40 hours per week.
Still an FTO, so still field training.
Yep. Make a motion for that, someone?
Shall I make a motion, we appoint Zachary Warner to the full-time position in the police department?
Second.
Are those in favor?
Aye?
All right, okay. We're looking now at a library, a demotion to part-time. I think that is a demotion or a change in
A
status.
change in
Okay,
status.
sounds a little
I know,
better.
it sounds a little harsh. Essentially, Julia, she has a new full-time position, but the library, she's open to staying with the library, in the event they need to fill a shift or
Okay.
something opens up and they need an extra body. She's gonna kind of stay on their roster, but
Okay,
in a part-time capacity.
So she is going to be a person who's available to call in when necessary.
Yep.
And she is now at class number 1, bachelor's step 2, and she is at library assistant for $16.81 an hour. with a potential of working 10 hours per week.
I'd like to make a comment on this.
Okay?
For forever that I can remember, this has irked me. We have someone who's being paid full-time $19 an hour,
Mhm.
plus benefits, which costs us quite a
Lot.
bit more.
Mhm.
And she's willing to come back, and we're gonna pay her almost $3, $2.30 an hour less
Mhm.
to come back part-time and have no benefits.
Mhm.
I don't understand why we couldn't hold the pay for her, and why these part-time pays can't match full-time. They're not getting any of the benefits, and they're getting less money to begin with.
Well,
It would make these part-time positions more attractive. We might keep people coming back for them. And she might be more inclined to come back and work a few hours. Not saying I'm not proposing we change it on this paperwork, but it could go back to the library, and I would certainly entertain
think-
that on part-time positions.
I think we have to fix the.
Well, that's this is the function of the select board, is to change the rates,
Well,
so-
change the
the wage and comps.
wage and compensation plan. I
Yep.
mean, and that's,
Right.
and it's pretty old anyway.
But, well, we did a lot of changing with Andrew, but it needs
Yeah.
to constantly change.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't propose we change it without, because the budget is set, and it's run by the library commission.
That's right.
And then if we
Trustees.
start changing their numbers, it's gonna screw up their
Yeah.
accounting, what they can do. But I would like to, you
If there
know.
was some change to the step process and where
Yeah.
people move to.
Yeah.
Something
And
along
where,
those lines.
where part-times can make similar salaries as full-times, that makes the job more appealing.
Mhm.
You know, when you go to full-time, yeah, you're gonna get all sorts, you're gonna get benefits and health, health and vacation, and other things. I mean, there's no accrual of vacation or
Mhm.
sick leave, there's no personal days, there's no health benefits.
Right.
And then we pay them less money on top of that. It seems, this is why we have trouble with seasonal workers down the DPW, why we had to raise that salary, and I think we should really consider bumping these, I mean, what is it, $3 an hour for 10 hours, is $30 a week?
Mhm.
Right. If they
Yeah.
even, it's not gonna be a consistent
If,
30 hour.
but when you offer to come back,
Right.
it should be the same, if not, part-time
Well,
should get.
yeah, like you say, I think
know.
we should make our concerns, I agree with you, Greg, and I think we should say to the trustees, if you thought about this, I think you're right, we don't know what their budget is and how tight they are.
Right, and we'd be more than willing to entertain
Yeah,
raising these part-time
Yeah.
salaries so they can get more employees.
Yeah.
And this would go for all departments that have part-time, I would think. If we can bring their salary similar to a full-time, they just don't, some people don't have the hours, but why not be paid the same money for the same job?
mhm.
When you're full-time dedication, you're gonna get other benefits too for full-time.
Well, I would say we need to look at the whole
The whole
package.
thing, right,
Right.
yeah.
In the meantime, I make a motion, we approve Julia Palmer for the new part-time position at $16.18 an hour.
I would second that, also with our thanks for the work she's done as a full-time employee there.
No said.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Looks like an unanimous vote. And then we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take Kyla Phillips, and we're taking her from being part-time to now being a 29-hour-a-week employee, and her rate would be $18.85.
Now, wait a minute, if we're already paying her that, and we're giving her benefits, why do we have to raise the salary? No, just kidding.
We have a motion on that?
I would move to approve Kayla Phillips for,
1885.
yes, 1885.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, that's a go. Okay, position title change.
Yes, so this is another function of the select board. You oversee anything that has to do with changing a job, whether that's the title or the description. And the library director approached me with the request that it changes from adult and technical services librarian to adult and technology services librarian. So
Okay.
it's a little bit of a,
Makes more sense.
Yes, it
than
makes-
technical.
more sense to change it to technology, given the kind of direction that we're moving in. When you go to a library nowadays, it's way more than just checking out books. So given the services that the library has already been providing, this was the library director's former position. So he knows from the experience that it's more of a technology services than it is technical services.
Right.
So,
And has this been, something that the library trustees have probably, I know they meet?
Yes,
and
they
okay.
vote on everything before it makes it to my desk.
Okay,
I would make the motion to approve the
change in title.
position change. And the change in title for the position to Adults and Technology Services.
And description. I think the description has
Yeah.
probably changed.
The description didn't change at all, just the title of it to reflect the actual, what the job description accomplishes. So essentially, this just comes in handy when the job, whenever it has to go out to, people that want to apply for it, they, at first glance, might be more willing to click on a link that says Adult and Technology Services than Adult and Technical Services, because technical can mean a wide range of things, and technology is a little bit more focused on, some of those modern day skills that they provide at the library.
Fair enough, second motion.
We have a motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And you will let Joe know that those changes? Okay.
I think he watches these meetings.
Well, he's on
He'll
vacation.
know. He is on vacation.
He's on vacation,
but-
so maybe
What
not.
better thing to do than have
Now
sip
that-
a
What better
margarita
thing?
and watch us?
Now we have a final
You're entertaining sometimes.
appointment. Would you like to make a motion on that?
Sure, I would move to appoint Greg O'Sullivan as an on-call fire department.
I would second that motion. Hearing no further discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
An abstention.
Perfect.
And thank you, Greg.
Yeah, I like to do it the right way and not,
Well, no, I'm just
Myself.
saying, to be an on-call fire department person is not an easy job.
well,
Anything old business, or are we ready to go in executive session?
We're ready.
Okay. And the reason for executive session as so listed there, does somebody want to make a motion?
I would move pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A, that we move into executive session to conduct strategy in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically lieutenant in the police department.
would you consider adding, exiting only to adjourn from that?
Exiting only to adjourn.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion made and seconded to go into executive session for the provisions noted by the motion maker. Those in favor?
Aye.
Uh,
Dixon, yes.
O'Sullivan, yes?
Marshall, yes.